Speaking of getting carded, Dean is like, red card, send him off. He doesn't deserve, like, he wants him out of that game.
Hello, everybody. To our new listeners, welcome. To our old listeners, welcome back. We are the Perspective Potterheads, Jenny B and Terri T, and we're here to discuss our favorite fandoms, starting with and primarily featuring Harry Potter content. If you like our content, like it, and if you love it, share, subscribe, and support.
Today, we are going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Chapter 11, Quidditch. And while Chapter 11 is the topic of the day, we will cover multiple books, multiple chapters, multiple everything. We talk about everything. Rabbit holes all over the place. But if you haven't read it yet, there are spoilers ahead. So I recommend stop, take a minute, read the book. It's fun.
So I know we started talking about the chapter images here, and it's pretty straightforward in this one.
They're playing Quidditch.
They're playing Quidditch. All sorts of balls all over the place. We see the snitch and the quaffle and the bludgers zooming by, and then like 3 people on broomsticks flying around. So
I think this one in the front might be Harry. I can't tell.
Yeah, because he's got the glasses on, and that one in the middle like has to be a beater because he's got the club in his hands. So I'm assuming that the last one's a chaser because they don't have. So the only person that they don't have is the keeper and the goalposts. So
if they're out in the middle of the field, they wouldn't have the keeper in the goalpost. So
yeah,
I love the art. I like that we're kind of taking a minute to kind of look at that because it's really interesting, especially after Alan found that the
Severus and the
Severus in the potions book, and then we realized, oh my gosh, that's the potions book.
Yes. Oh, that was so cool.
Cool stuff.
Yes, I posted that picture on Instagram and on our Facebook account. So if you're only watching us on YouTube, you can find that stuff there. Or I don't know, there's a way to probably thumbnail these things to YouTube too, right? Because I see that sometimes in some of the other pages I follow. I don't know how to do that.
Tech expert.
Yes.
And I'll increase his pay.
I'll double
it. Let's see. So my first note has to do with colors again. Oh, and okay. I know that's kind of like a theme for me with like, but it's something that I've noticed comes up over and over again. And like they turn to November and everything is gray, ice gray, chilled steel, like that. And that's what I think of when I think of November. I mean, we're in Northeast Ohio, they're in Scotland, but still like November is gray. It's not quite pretty white snow, but everything is dead looking and it's usually Consequently, I know most people think of red with February, but February is also a very gray month for me. It looks gray. It does.
Well, like once the snow falls, like when you get like that deafening white fluffy snow, it's beautiful. But the second you start driving, like the dirt comes up and it just gets covered. And so the snow isn't white anymore after a while.
It's ugly.
Most of the time it's like that slushy, mushy, gray stuff in the middle. Yeah. So snow is not as pretty as it is in movies.
If I look out to the front of my house, that's where all the dirt and the yuck is. But if I look out to the back, especially if like the kids haven't gone out and played yet, or we haven't gone out like to the coop or the barn or something like that, like that's all very pristinely white still because it's far enough back from the road and you don't get the dirt and there's nothing like, I mean, occasionally get some tracks or something, but like it's pretty. I like looking out the back of my house to that. But yeah, once it melts.
Yeah. We were playing a game of like trying to figure out like what animals are going through our backyard. Well, like we live in the city, so it shouldn't be too many. There's definitely rabbits and possibly deer.
Yes, there's definitely deer. I've seen deer down there.
Yeah,
down by the church. So, it's amazing how many like my in-laws live in the city, and like they've had a bear.
Ooh.
Do you remember when the bear was caught?
That was a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it was a few years ago.
Yeah,
but it was funny because my mother-in-law saw it, and my mother-in-law. We love to rag on her and stuff. And she's like, I saw a bear. And we're like, no, you didn't. And then they're like, they caught a bear like 2 days later in that area. We're like, okay, you did see a bear. I guess we believe you now. I mean, we'll occasionally get bears out this way.
Yeah, I would expect to see bears in your area.
But
and I'm sure you see deer all the time.
Oh yeah, there was 10 of them in the yard when we pulled in from soccer the other day. Like we pulled into Grandpa's to do his nightly check-in, and there were out by the pond, there were like 8 to 10 of them. I think there's 10, and they were great. Like Alan's like, the minute we open the doors, it's gonna be all over, they're gonna run away. But they didn't. Like we opened the doors and we were like watching them for a few minutes, and then the kids started to run out towards them, and then they ran away. But it was really neat to see, like, especially for the spring. Like in the fall, I think they learn to be real skittish, but in the spring, they're still kind of like, what are you?
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you I found a baby deer?
I don't think so.
I was running. So I have like a half-mile loop tracked out on the property. So I can run that loop a couple of times, and it's uphill, downhill, like, and it's trail run. So, cause it goes back through the woods. So it's good for me. But I was running along the edge of the field where we usually brush hog, like the edge of the lawn into the field. So, and I'm running like right here, and the field's like right here, and there's a baby deer, and it followed me. And then I had to remind myself, like, mama deers leave their babies so they can go eat, and I can't go mess around with the baby, even though I wanted to keep it. My husband told me I wasn't allowed to keep it.
I think we're gonna have a lot of bunnies this year, because I have not seen any bunnies on our house. We've lived here for 4 years. And until this year when we had Luna, which my mom calls her honey bunny. And so there was always this one rabbit in the backyard that would always just see sitting in like our driveway, sometimes in our front yard, sometimes in our backyard. Pretty sure they live in like this bush that we have, that I'm not sure if it's our property or our neighbor's property, but I'm not going to let them get rid of that bush, because that's where the bunnies are. So, and you can like, and in the winter we saw their snow prints going from there to like in the yard and stuff. So
we have a dog, so we don't get too many bunnies in our yard, but the neighbor across the street, we always see bunnies over there in his yard, because he's got like a nice little wooded area right there. Our woods are further back.
Yeah. That's probably why we didn't have bunnies until this year, because our neighbors moved out this year and they had dogs. And that place has been vacant for a while. That's why. I thought it was like some sort of like miraculous miracle thing with my baby being a honey bunny. It's because of dogs.
It's more fun. It's more fun to be that way.
Yeah.
November means Quidditch.
Huh?
November.
November.
As we circle back, November is Quidditch.
Yes.
Beginning of the Quidditch season.
My first note was about Hermione being more relaxed about breaking the rules. And I was just started getting curious about how many rules are they breaking on a daily basis now to be like, she's used to it now. Like, she kindles that blue fire, which, I mean, aren't they supposed to be practicing magic?
But not in the corridors.
Right. I know she's got it like out in the yard, and it's probably not something that they've learned yet. So I mean, how does that work as far as like what they're allowed to practice? It's obviously not from the restricted section, because we'll get there later. So it's got to be something that she's able to learn ahead of time. Yeah. And so I can't be anything dangerous. It's not like she's playing with fiend fire. So
no, not at all. I just think there's no magic in the corridors, so I would assume that would mean in the yard as well. And so they could get in trouble for that. I like how like Harry's like, Snape just knows we're doing something wrong. Yeah. And he doesn't see the fire, but he makes up that he can't have this book. Quidditch Through the Ages.
Which to me, that was like the most boring book ever. And again,
going to like their
library books. Like their library books and their school books are so small. Like, I mean, it's crazy. I wish our schools were that easy sometimes.
See, I don't have those ones. I have the Tales of Beedle the Bard, but I've never bought those ones.
I will have to lend these to you sometime.
You should just get them.
So
it would be a good addition to my Harry Potter library. It's weird because I always like, I want to get those, and then I never do. And
right,
I've read the Fantastic Beasts one because I borrowed it.
It actually says that these are from, like, my cover thing says that these are from the libraries of Hogwarts, and it's got Fantastic Beasts and where to find them as part of the library.
I mean, I'm sure the course books would be in the library.
Probably, just in case for students. They don't have that for Harry or Ron but in the 6th year for their potions books,
but Slughorn just has extra books. It's fine.
Yeah. So Snape takes his book, and if it's a library book, how is Harry supposed to return it? Or is Snape?
And it's not even Harry who checked it out. It's Hermione. It's Hermione's library book.
Yeah. That's why when she gave it to him, I'm surprised. Like, I actually thought it was hers, not a library book, but.
But I think it says previously like that she got it out of the library because she's trying to learn anything she can about flying.
Yeah, I could see that.
She's freaking out. So yeah, he's limping and Ron's like, I hope it's really hurting him. I love Ron.
I think Ron is most of us.
Yeah. When you see something bad happening to somebody you don't like, you're like, Yeah. We'll just let karma sort that out.
Yeah. Ron is like the shadow self of the group type of thing. Like Hermione is all about like the good intentions and the light. And Ron has like that darker side, like, just throw your wand away and punch him. Like, I hope that thing is really hurting him. So, and then Harry's somewhat in the middle. So they balance each other out nicely.
Yeah, it's a nice balance. It's a good group.
Mm-hmm. And they're all kids. So, yeah, I mean, they're still working on finding their true selves too. I'm like, hey, it took me to my 30s. So some people I know it takes them even longer than that. It's whatever.
Yeah. So I like that the Gryffindor common room's noisy and Hermione's checking their homework. She won't let them copy.
How will you learn?
But she definitely like mothers them. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, let me check it over. Make sure you got it all right. And we see this throughout the books. Like, she'll be like, now I fixed this and here, copy out this conclusion that I wrote for you. And, she very much like walks them through it. They benefit greatly from her knowledge. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Like, she does a fantastic job of helping them learn these things and keeping them on track. I don't think they would be half as good as students without her influence.
Right, for sure. But Harry wants his Quidditch Through the Ages back.
Yes.
So he goes
try to get it from Snape, which I think is hilarious. Like, Ron's like, better you than me.
Yeah. And he has a good plan though. Like, if you ask in front of other teachers, then, then they'll say if Snape is unfair, then he's hoping one of the other teachers will make something fair. Like, Snape can't be mean in front of them, right?
Exactly.
Good theory. Good theory.
So he goes to the staff room.
Yes.
And the door's open, so he just peeks inside. And this scene just kind of makes me go,
Right.
So Snape's got his robes pulled up above his knee and Filch is handing him bandages and he's bandaging his leg.
Why doesn't he go to Madame Pomfrey?
Why doesn't he use some Dittany? Like, he knows all of this stuff. Yeah. Why doesn't he use some magic? Like, he can heal Malfoy's sectum sempra wounds instantly. And he even tells Malfoy to use Dittany.
Yeah, he's supposed to be good at defense against the dark arts. He's the potions master. Yeah. And so then I started thinking maybe there's something in Fluffy's bite. You know how, like, with Nagini, when she bites Mr. Weasley.
Yes.
And the wounds just won't heal. But isn't Fluffy just a regular dog, but with 3 heads and immensely large?
We don't know a whole lot, except that Hagrid got him her. Is Fluffy a boy or a girl? Do we know?
I think, didn't we say last time we were going to say them? They're multiple heads. They're multiple dogs anyway, right?
Okay. Anyway, so Fluffy was given to Hagrid from a Greek chappie. That's all we know about Fluffy.
Right.
I love that Hagrid's just like so nonchalant about it. We'll get to that later, but he's like, I just got it from a Greek chappie I met at the pub.
Yeah.
No big deal.
So, and here's the thing is that I don't know if they're just like ignoring the fact that somebody was knocking on the door, because Harry knocked on the door before he peeked in, and he's like, nobody answered. So I think maybe he just left it in the staff room. I might as well check. So they don't hear him knock. They don't hear him open the door and go in. They don't like, and
they're
then
very
then he
absorbed
sees
in what
what's
they're
going
doing.
on. And then when he actually tries to be quiet and sneak away, then they notice him. So it's like, okay, he knocked, he snuck in, he heard your conversation.
Like how Harry still tries to get the book back. He's like, but I just want my
book. Right.
Snape's shouting at him.
Oh.
And I like how he's like, he left before he could take any more points from Gryffindor, because that's a big concern.
It is, yeah. And then it seems like we just kind of shift gears. It's like, okay, that's done. Now we're going to Quidditch.
Yeah, it's like there's a little like argument between Ron, Hermione, Harry. Like Hermione's like, no, Snape wouldn't try to steal something. But that seed is planted in her head, because she immediately, when Harry's broom's active, she immediately looks to Snape.
Yeah.
So she's verbally saying, no, Snape's a good guy. But in the back of her mind, she's like, because she's very smart. So Quidditch. So this whole thing, I love they're trying to get Harry to eat some breakfast. Come on, Harry, just a little bit of toast. Like they're all like kind of pushing him. And Seamus, love it. Seekers are always the ones who get clobbered by the other team.
That's so helpful, Seamus. Thanks.
But yeah, like all I can think of is that is 11-year-old boy helpful.
Yeah.
That is 11-year-old helpful, period, regardless of gender. There are times my daughter will say things and I'm just like, and she's like, what? They're very honest at that age, which is funny because when I did my middle school, when I did my like practicum in middle school, it was really interesting because all I kept saying is, oh my gosh, these are like giant preschoolers, only they're not cute. They have the no filter. They're still working out some of the body function stuff.
Yeah.
And they're kind of oozy, gross. They might smell a little bit, which is, middle school is hard.
Yeah.
Hard. Like I'm trying to do everything I can to make this a little bit smoother for my 10-year-old, but it's still hard. Like she's going to middle school next year. It's going to be hard. And I tell her that all the time, like you'll get through this. That's all you need to know is you'll get through this. And by the time you're about 15, it'll all be okay. But they don't have a filter. They still have not developed that. Like maybe I shouldn't say that. Like,
yeah, it's kind of true. So I saw something on the Daily Show, and it was talking about people who are having a hard time. People are struggling. They can call a kindergartner for advice, and they'll tell them things like, if you're feeling sad, go out and buy a pair of shoes. Like, because that's whatever kids do to make themselves happy, like paint a picture, like, and it's the most sweet, innocent, it's probably not the best advice, but like
it is interesting.
So cute.
I have a kindergartner and he does give really good advice sometimes because his world is very black and white. Like, I'm tired. Okay, go take a nap.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Go
have some chocolate.
Yeah.
Or the standby is, let's go get some ice cream.
Yeah. And the thing is though, it's like there's a wisdom to that though. Mm-hmm. It's like these days it's like we don't allow ourselves to rest.
No.
But it's like for a kid, it's like you're tired, sleep.
Take a nap.
Listen to your body. Your body knows what it needs. Like and they know what their body needs. So when they're tired, they know I sleep, and they do it instinctively. And we just push ourselves beyond that because what
you're tired, have another cup of coffee.
Put ourselves on, the pressures we put on ourselves. And so listening to kids' advice and then taking it sometimes. Mm-hmm. I mean, like use your adult rationality because they say buy shoes, and every time you're sad you buy shoes, then you end up with a big problem and a lot of debt,
and a lot of shoes that you're not going to wear.
Yeah. So
I think the best thing, like when I'm starting, like yesterday, it was beautiful. It was beautiful outside. So we just went outside. I did some, some yard work, cleaning up like things that had been blown around in some of the windstorms, picked up some sticks, walked the baby around in the stroller, and just enjoyed the outside. It was fun. Yeah. Kids have a much more simplified way of looking at things.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready for Quidditch. Wood speech. I think is the next thing I have notes on.
Yeah.
Oh, and no, I missed a note. So I like how they're talking about how they're sitting. They're up there. It's Ron and Hermione join Neville, Seamus, and Dean, and they have to qualify that Dean is the West Ham fan again.
Yes.
But it becomes relevant. I was like, at first when I wrote that, it becomes relevant because then Dean makes a soccer reference later.
That's true. Yeah.
So I like how Oliver's like, we are going to win. Mm-hmm. And then there's the unspoken or else.
Yes.
And I don't know, I just have like lots of like little like weird notes, like that Flint looks like he has troll blood.
My next note isn't until I think when Hagrid comes up, because it's he has his binoculars. I know he was watching from his hut, but then he still uses them when he's there. And
they said that a lot of the students have binoculars because it's still pretty high up.
And then it's just like a game where you need binoculars to see what's going on doesn't sound really fun. But then I was starting to think about, well, when I watch hockey, half the time I lose track of the puck because it goes by so fast. So, and it like the black, especially if the players are wearing black and with the sticks and their skates, it's like, I can easily see, but then again, like, yes, the snitch is that small, but the quaffles are bigger. Like, yeah. So,
but like you think about the World Cup match and they have the omnioculars that slow things down because they're moving fast, especially, I mean, they're on slower brooms at this point. And Harry's got his Nimbus, but like with the World Cup and they're all on the Firebolt and they're just.
Yeah. But the other thing with
that's what I envision
binoculars, you only see like this much, but the field is like this big. Like, how do you keep up with everything that's going on?
And that becomes the point. Like Harry with the omnioculars, he was slowing it down, and they're like, Ireland scores, and he's like, what? Wait, right? But but Bulgaria has the quaffle, like, because you can't keep up. I have,
but with the regular binoculars, like for a kid's game, I wouldn't think that you wouldn't need binoculars.
I don't know. Harry's up pretty high to see what Harry is doing, like, because he's above everybody else.
Yeah.
Because you would think that the chasers would mostly stay at like height with the goalposts.
Yeah, most likely.
There might be some up and down to try to get like maneuverability, like around, but they were going to stay pretty much at playing height. The beaters are going to be wherever the bludgers are to re-hit them because they're just kind of going off in their own direction.
Yeah. So why would they need to play 50 feet in the air? Like why couldn't they just play like fun. Say 25 feet in the air? Like,
where's your sense of adventure?
It's gone.
So I have for it. Two other notes before we get into like the big, like, ooh, this is what happens. Mm-hmm. This is where we learn that Lee Jordan does the commentary.
Yes.
But I like that they have to specify closely watched by Professor McGonagall.
Mm-hmm. Because she adds her 2 cents in there too. So
Jordan!
She used to yell at him a lot, but he does a great job. And like when I was doing the that Harry Potter Tournament of Houses review, like the guy who played Lee Jordan in the movies, he did fantastic in the movies, and then he did a great job like making it so exciting with his commentating on, like, even in that he's got the voice for it. He's just perfect. So in my mind when I read these, he's that guy. Like, and typecasting again for these movies is just phenomenal.
Yeah. I don't know.
Sorry. I just have to, like, kudos to that guy. I'm horrible with actors' names. So
me too. I don't pay attention to that stuff because it's
I
just
know.
really not relevant to me.
Right. I mean, like, it's hard to avoid some of the big name actors, you know what I mean? Like Maggie Smith and
oh yeah, and Al Rickman.
Yeah.
The three. But
beyond that, I'm kind of lost.
So then I made the note of the Slytherin seeker, Terrence Higgs. Is he a 7th year? Or does he just get booted next year when Malfoy comes in with his money flashing?
Ah, yeah.
That's what I was curious about. I'm like, what happened to Terrence Higgs?
Either one of those is possible. So
my daddy buys all new broomsticks. I get to be seeker.
Yeah.
Malfoy's not a bad seeker. Mm-hmm. He's not a bad Quidditch player, not a bad flyer.
Right.
But he did the money flashing thing.
Yeah. I could probably see Draco winning a few games because he catches the snitch.
And Slytherin does win.
Like Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw. So they mentioned Alicia Spinett. Mm-hmm. And last year she was a reserve. So they do have subs at some point.
But not
then
this year.
Don't for this year. Right.
Or any other year.
And they don't practice, and they still don't practice with their subs.
I know, it's so weird.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting later on, they'll talk about how Ravenclaw must have subs because he had hoped that Cho wouldn't be fit to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know if it was in this book. My years.
I don't think it's in this book. I don't think Cho is even mentioned until 3.
I think it is 3. I think you're right. He said, I really hope she wouldn't be fit. She's had some problems with injuries. Mm. He scowls. Like, it is 3 because that's what I was listening to earlier this week. Right.
Wood initially told Harry, I think it was in the last chapter, that he doesn't need to worry about getting hit by the bludgers because Fred and Weasley, Fred and George Weasley are a pair of bludgers themselves, and they can take care of it. And then, like, one of the first notes we see is Katie Bell gets hit by a bludger. Then where were Fred and George? Come on now. Harry's broomstick isn't acting up yet, so they should be on that.
And I think it's interesting, like, but I would assume the chasers are more the recipients of bludger attacks. Like, they're gonna hit the bludgers at the chasers because they're the ones actively working with the quaffle. The only time that they're gonna actually go after the seeker is if he is trying to catch the snitch.
Yeah,
he's just up there floating around.
Right. He's got to stay out of the way until he sees something, and then he's supposed to dive down because I think it says he doesn't want him getting injured before he needs to be.
So Flint blocks Harry. Harry sees the snitch. He's gaining on, he's ahead of Terrence Higgs. Yes. He's going for it, and Flint is like, bam.
How is that not legal? Like, I mean, isn't that part of Quidditch, is that they're running into each other and they're trying to knock each other off their brooms? And
I don't think so. I think that is like, it's like in basketball. So if you're going to set a pick, you want to go out and you want to block. But if you lunge at them, like if you stand still and they run into you, that's okay. You can knock them on their butt doing that.
Okay.
But if you actively oomph them, that's a foul.
Okay.
So
there's just like minor technicalities in like every sport that like I know in football, like they hit each other all the time, but you can't hit somebody the wrong way because
and you can't grab their face mask and you can't.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
like there's like, so you cannot actively like on purpose block somebody. Now, if you put like, if they're both going after the quaffle and they collide, I think that'd be one thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like soccer. They kick each other a lot. That's why they wear shin guards. But if you like purposely wallop somebody without reason, then you get carded. So speaking of getting carded, Dean is like, red card, send him off. He doesn't deserve, like, he wants him out of that game. And I like how Hagrid, who has no clue what soccer is like, yeah, I agree with Dean. He could have killed him. Again, Hagrid being very much that parent.
Right. And he's like, he could have knocked him off his broom. That's the point, like, of the bludgers. Like, bludgers are part of this game. You have people actively getting hit in the face, broken jaws, all that type of stuff with these balls, like cannons. Like, that's what I imagine the bludgers to be like cannonballs. And if one of them hits them the wrong way, those people are going to fall off their brooms most likely. And yet somebody knocks into somebody, foul or not, like, come on.
Yeah.
The only reason that Harry, I don't know if it's the only reason, but sees the snitch is that the commentator, like when Lee George is commentating, and like the chaser, is it the Slytherin chasers go in, and like the snitch whizzes by in the other direction, and
you're like, ooh.
Yeah. And so then Harry comes down, and that's when Flint fouls him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but because the foul, he lost track of it. So now he's got to go back to looking again.
Yeah. And the snitch seems to like be very quick to disappear. Like, it's not like, oh, it's here, I know I should start looking in this area. It's off.
Yeah. And it's so it's got to have some sort of boundaries on it so that it doesn't just leave the,
I know, right? I always wondered that
area completely. It's gonna just fly home to Norway or something. I don't know. And so Harry's back to just flying around up top, and then nobody sees his broom start acting funny.
Broom just gives a lurch.
Yes. And it seems for a while like nobody notices anything, and like, so then I'm wondering, like, do they not and we know it's not something that happens until like after, till like this moment, but do they not do broom checks and inspections beforehand?
I don't know. Like, you would think that they would.
And they get like really nervous that he's about to fall off his broom, but like I said earlier, kids are most likely going to be falling off their brooms, so they have to have some sort of plan for if a kid falls off their broom.
See, I don't think they fall off their brooms all that often. I think they're skilled enough that even if they do get hit with the bludgers, they're maintaining their seat on their broom.
They would have to be at least, it would have to happen at least enough time.
Because it's a big deal when Harry falls off his broom in book 3. It's a really big deal. Like, oh my gosh, he fell off his broom 50 feet.
Yeah.
And if Dumbledore hadn't slowed him down, probably did a cushioning charm, would be my assumption, he could have gotten very hurt.
I mean, you would have to imagine that at some point, like, they would have to plan for those inevitable things, right? It's bound to happen. They're kids, they're on brooms, they're 50 feet in the air. Like,
they got Madame Pomfrey to mop them up. It's okay.
I suppose.
So I think you feel about Quidditch like I feel about football for my kids. Like, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So Hermione instantly grabs Hagrid's binoculars, and instead of like going, oh my gosh, what's going on with Harry, she immediately turns to Snape. She's got her binoculars. She's looking at Snape.
And instead of telling a teacher or Hagrid or who's right next to them, like, Hagrid, look at this. It's Snape's doing that.
Leave it to me. Leave it to me. She's got it. She is a girl of action. She's going to handle this.
Yeah.
And again, Snape is that perfect. They've set him up. Like, he's muttering under his breath. He's got eye contact with Harry. It looks like he's cursing him.
Yeah.
Why doesn't, like, so she knocks over Quirrell on her way. If Snape suspects it's Quirrell, why doesn't he turn around and wallop him and break his eye contact? That'd be much more helpful than your counter curse that is clearly not working.
That's a good point. Maybe he feels like he has to keep Harry on his broom first, because if he took the time to find Quirrell, does he know if it's not, he's not 100% sure it is Quirrell. Yeah.
He suspects Quirrell.
Yeah. But this is the point where I think it's like the third or fourth time since we've been at Hogwarts. Every time we see Snape, we see Quirrell.
Yeah, they're very much like at the feast.
Yeah.
They're at the opening feast, they're there, and he's like looks at Snape, but he's looking past Quirrell's turban.
Right.
The troll situation.
Yep.
And then now this. But I think it's interesting, like the only like we know and we pick up on this now. We're like, oh
now. Yeah.
But when you're reading this the first time, it's like it doesn't even it's just such like a little side note. It's like
right, because
racing along the row behind him, she didn't even stop to say sorry as she knocked Professor Quirrell headfirst into the row in front. So he is right behind Snape.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, she learned to do the flip. We see this a lot. Like, they learn a spell, and then that spell becomes something they are actually really using, like the summoning charm. Mrs. Weasley uses it, and then they're learning it, and then Harry needs it for the first task. Like,
yes,
we see that a lot, where they plug a spell in the beginning, and then that's something they're going to need throughout. Expelliarmus becomes one like that they learn, and then it's very important
every time.
A lot of times, actually. That was a very important spell.
That's Harry's go-to spell from then on. So, but that fire spell, so how does it work? Because he catches on fire, but then Hermione scoops the fire back up. So,
but she carries that around, like she makes that flame and then she carries it around in her jar. So
is it like there's an episode of Futurama where there's like a little flame and it's like it's an alive flame, and then it goes and it sets fire and then it runs away so that it can set fire other places.
It's like the fire spirit.
Yeah.
Like the fire spirit in Frozen 2. I don't know.
And then how does that go unnoticed?
Why didn't she just leave him on fire? I would have left him on fire.
How does nobody notice Hermione's pushing her way, a Gryffindor, pushing her way through all these Slytherins and then Snape just happens to catch fire and then she runs away. Nobody notices it. And it's just like Hagrid, she's talking with Ron about it being Snape right next to Hagrid after stealing his binoculars.
And Hagrid didn't notice that was going on either.
Any of their conversation. No.
But I can believe that from Hagrid because it's Hagrid. He is less than observant. Although it was interesting, I saw like a little meme about how Hagrid's the only one to notice Harry's body disappears when he's supposedly dead.
Yeah.
Like he's all the rest of them. And Hagrid's like, where'd Harry go? Anyway. So Harry manages to flip himself back up on his broom and he speeds down because he catches that stick in his mouth.
It seemed like such more accidental. Like in the movies, they make it look like, he's trying for it, but something happens and he somehow trips in the air and then he accidentally swallows it. It just seems like he's just flying around looking for it. And then it just happens to like he didn't even seem to notice it almost. Because if you see it coming, grab it instead of swallowing it.
Unless you're flying and it's like right there and you're like, oh.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem like it was skill at all that caught him this snitch.
No, this is like purely like coincidental, accidental.
I'm wondering.
I think when they have their next match, he even says he needs to prove that when he catches the snitch the next time, he proves that he actually knows what he's doing and it's not just a fluke.
I think that maybe somebody might have sent it to him. Like somebody might have saw the snitch, like the teacher say, maybe Dumbledore, because he does weird stuff all the time.
Dumbledore's not there though.
Oh, that's right, because he comes to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
They make a point of that. But so just somebody who's all like, man,
refereeing.
Harry sure had a hard time. Let's cut him a break. This is his first one. He nearly gets knocked off his broom. And, we all know that he got fouled pretty bad earlier too. And he should have caught the snitch then if it wasn't for Marcus Flint. So I'm just going to, Axio that to Harry. And then Harry's all like, what? Why is that coming to me now? It's just going the other direction or something. So I think maybe say, okay, if not Dumbledore, then maybe McGonagall.
I was thinking McGonagall.
If somebody's going to tamper with dark magic, I'm going to tamper with my magic and make my team win because this is ridiculous.
So another thing I noted, and this is like the very like last 2 pages, is that they don't have a party.
Yeah, or if they do, then Harry, Ron, and Hermione just don't go to it because they would rather go to Hagrid's. And I could see them doing this though because they want to know what's going on.
And Hagrid has the answers.
Yeah,
they know Hagrid has the answers.
Yeah.
So
and but he has more questions like why would Snape do it? But then he does give them the clue about Fluffy. And then he gives them the clue about Nicholas Flamel. So he does have the answers. We just didn't know. But they, they knew already. So
I like that like they're Hagrid's like, well, that's rubbish. Why would he do that? And Harry's like, I found something about him. He tried to get past the 3-headed dog on Halloween. It bit him. We think he was trying to steal whatever it's guarding. And Hagrid drops his teapot. Like, what? How do you know about Fluffy?
Fluffy.
And they're like, Fluffy?
Yeah.
And I like how he almost blurts it out. I lent him to Dumbledore to guard the... And they're like, yes. Don't ask me any more questions. Poor Hagrid. They get him so flustered. And I've done this. Like my kids will get me. I bought a treat for St. Patrick's Day. I bought them mint chocolate chip Klondike bars, which is a big treat. We don't typically do the colored things, and the Klondike bars have lots of extra ingredients that I'm not a big fan of. Like we do ice cream. Don't get me wrong. We eat a lot of ice cream. That's our thing. But I like ice cream that it's like milk, sugar, natural flavor, strawberries, whatever. Klondike bars are a little, but I wanted something. It was a very busy day for us. We had soccer. We were going to have soccer late. So I got mint chocolate chip Klondike bars because they're green. Okay. And they get me all flustered and I like blurt out what the surprise dessert is. Like, what is it? What is it, Mom? What is it, Mom? And I'm like, fine, you can have them. Thanks for ruining the surprise. I'm bad at that though. Like Christmas is hard. Because I want so bad to tell them what they're getting.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it to them when we buy it in like October instead of waiting. That's why the past couple of years we've done more last minute Christmassy shopping.
Yeah.
Smart. Because then Mommy doesn't have as much time to blurt out what I got you. So I feel for Hagrid. And I like Hagrid's argument against Snape is nope, Snape's a Hogwarts teacher.
Right.
No, Squirrel.
Yeah.
He is trying to steal it. And Hermione's assertion about her, I know a Jinx when I see one, Hagrid. I've read all about them. Like,
so what is the difference between a Jinx and a curse and a hex and a spell and a charm and like?
I don't know.
I feel like the differences are so minute between them.
I think of Jinxes as like something you're doing to someone that is harmful.
But isn't that more of a hex?
But isn't that also a curse?
Right? Is it
I think maybe Jinxes are like minor
because the bat bogey hex is harmful, or is it like is like the artist
curse? Maybe it's like Jinx, hex, curse. Like
that's what I was thinking because a curse is like seems like it's going to be like more long lasting, like it has more long lasting effects. So. And maybe like a hex has to do with more of like a physical.
Puts them through hex deflection, and Harry has twitchy ears.
Yeah, and then there's like counter jinxes. So jinxes are,
but there's also counter curses.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. What happens to Fluffy after this year?
I don't know. Does Fluffy get to roam free in the forest?
I feel like if he did, we'd
what do you do with Fluffy? Like Fluffy wants to rip your leg off anytime you go near it, unless you play it music and then it falls asleep. Like there's no like.
Yeah.
Although,
and I don't think he's in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Like no.
Have you ever read the Percy Jackson series?
No, not yet.
So they travel to the underworld and they meet Cerberus, another very famous 3-headed dog. Famous 3-headed dogs. Cerberus, Fluffy.
Yes.
So Annabeth, their whole plan with this is they've got to get past Cerberus to get into the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
And so without getting eaten, obviously. And Annabeth gets this rubber ball and she plays with Cerberus.
Aww.
Because Cerberus just wants some attention.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things
they're just
that, like,
puppies anyway, right?
When they're giving demands to Hades and they're like, and play with Cerberus. So maybe Fluffy just needs some attention and exercise.
Doesn't Ron say? Ron says if any dog needs exercise, it's that one.
Maybe if like he loves Hagrid, kind of like, you know, not like Norbert, not Norbert.
Yeah.
Oh, which we'll be getting into Norbert soon too.
Yeah. Do you have anything else on Hagrid? Because I saw a note that I skipped back about the Quidditch earlier.
Just that then we get our big clue. This is the end of the cliffhanger big clue. You forget that dog and you forget what it's guarding. That's between Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel.
Yeah.
Who's
so Nicholas Flamel involved now?
And Harry even says, I've read the name before. Mm-hmm. And we know he has, because we've read the name before too in the beginning of the book.
Right. But I mean, it was such like a one-liner, like every other name that we've read before too, like Newt Scamander.
And you don't think
those names are never going to be heard again.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even like it's on a chocolate frog card. It's not even like a textbook or anything like that. It's a chocolate frog card. So you can think like, I keep thinking of like my kids and their Pokemon cards. Like I wouldn't pay attention to anything on those.
Right.
So what was your note back on?
If somebody other than the Seeker catches the snitch, does that count? Because it flew by that one chaser, and if he would have just grabbed it, would he have won the game? Or, ended the game?
That's never discussed. I would kind of think that would have to be illegal because because then why wouldn't everybody just look for the snitch? Because it's worth so much more. Like scoring a goal is 10 points, getting the snitch is 150 points. Like, why wouldn't you get the snitch?
I guess that's true. So it would have to be.
Yeah.
But what happens if the snitch flew into his mouth?
Or up your sleeve?
like it's just going by.
He's hold it in your sleeve until you get over to the Seeker.
To the Seeker's mouth, right? Like, come on. I don't know.
That is an interesting thought.
All right. So the audiobooks.
There was a big one.
There's one big one. There's only two small ones. When Harry goes to get his book back, Ron says, rather you than me instead of better you than me. Yeah. And then football versus soccer. Dean, the West Ham football fan instead of soccer fan or whatever. So I'm actually going to get my book out for this because this is and actually this is where it becomes different. So in the audiobook, it says, hold on, where is it? What page is it on? Sorry, I'm missing I wrote the page down wrong. There we go. So Dean yells, send him off, ref, red card, kitty cat, hi baby. Oh, you're so pretty. So Dean yells, send him off, ref, red card. And then in the book, this one I'm reading first. What are you talking about, Dean? Said Ron. Red card, said Dean furiously. In soccer, you get shown the red card, you're out of the game. But this isn't soccer, Dean, Ron reminded him. Hagrid, however, was on Dean's side. Okay, now it's similar, but it's just different.
Different wording.
So after the send him off ref red card, this isn't football, Dean, Ron reminded him. And so then he doesn't ask in the book, they ask, what are you talking about? They don't get to that. They skip that line and then just go to this isn't football, Dean, Ron reminded him. You can't send people off in Quidditch, and what's a red card? So he asks, but it never gets answered. And then Hagrid says, and then it says, but Hagrid was on Dean's side instead of Hagrid, however, was on Dean's side.
That's really the wording is really different there.
It's really different. And like even the biggest thing, like even if they don't ask like, what are you talking about? And I feel like this is more because Americans aren't as into soccer.
No, we're not.
Because so we have to have that in soccer, you get shown the red card and you're out of the game line, which is completely gone from the audiobooks. But then they just change everything else so slightly that
but it's like wonky.
Yeah. I had to write it out completely how they said it here because I was like, they didn't just go change a word or a sentence here. The whole paragraphs are different.
It's interesting though, because like you would think, okay, if you put red card in there and we don't know what it is, we don't know what a Knickerbocker glory is, or, you know, like those things, and it wasn't a big deal. But I guess maybe, I don't know, I feel like they kind of pander to us Americans in these books.
Because like with the Knickerbocker glory, they did add the line about the ice cream.
True.
And with the rock cakes, they added a little description of the rock cakes
with raisins in them.
Yes. So because we, us Americans don't follow football or soccer, then we need to know. In soccer, you get shown a red card and you're out of the game.
Yeah, they have to.
But yeah, the way it's just so much more than that, because he could have asked him in this, like, this isn't football, and what's a red card? Like he could have said it, like he could have said it there instead of, what are you talking about? This is a red card, but this isn't soccer. Like it just, the flow is just backwards.
Yeah, it is weird.
But that's it. Like those are the only differences in this chapter.
Cool. They're big differences.
Yeah. Well, the one,
football.
One is a really big
difference.
The other two are pretty small. I mean, I think everybody knows at this point, or we should, that football and soccer are different.
The same, like,
yeah.
We're the only country that really calls it soccer.
Right.
Or else calls it football, which makes more sense. Football, American football.
Yes.
Really, the only time they use defeat is when the kicker kicks the field goal. Like, and I'm not a sports person, so I really don't know too much about, but there isn't a whole lot of footwork with American football.
Right.
Soccer, it makes sense to call it football because you're not allowed to touch it with your hands unless you're the goalie. It's so fun.
Or when you do a throw in from the sides.
Yes. We're watching the littles learn soccer. And my husband's coaching the 4 to 6s. And it's so funny because their first instinct is they want to grab that ball. Yeah. No hands. Same thing. Like I've got one in the 4 to 6, one in the 6 to 8, and one in the 8 to 10. So like we're in each age group. And it's interesting to watch how different it was. Fall soccer, 8 to 10 and 10 to 12 combined, because there wasn't enough kids. And oh my gosh, that was aggressive soccer. Because they're big kids, especially those 12-years. They're very highly athletic kids. And they want to win. And they are at it.
So in soccer, when they tell them no hands, and when kids are that age and they don't, and the last thing they hear is what they're going to use. So when somebody says no hands, they hear hands, and then they're going to grab that ball more. So you should teach your husband how to like reverse that. Kick with use your feet. Use your feet. Put your hands on your hips. Put your hands behind your backs. Wave your hands in the air when you kick the ball with your feet.
So they play this game, and I don't know the whole specifics of the game. So Alex is very excited that Daddy is his coach this year. He tells everybody like that is his big thing. I played soccer and my daddy is my coach. Like that's the sentence. It's so cute because he's still very baby. He's very little for kindergarten age. He's got the round chubby cheeks, my little cherub, and he's just like, my daddy is my coach. And he gets so excited about saying it. But they play a game called Kick the Coach. And it's basically the coaches run around and they got to kick the ball at them. I think is the premise of the game, just kind of getting them to work on kicking and aiming.
Yeah.
But that's Alex's, my favorite game is Kick the Coach.
That sounds like a fun one.
So I asked my husband, are you coming up with all this stuff on your own? Like, these are some really good, like he's talking to me about what he's planning for soccer practices. And he's like, no, I looked it up on the internet. I have no idea how to coach this kid. It's so cute. Soccer's fun though. Like at this age, like, I don't know that I would go watch a professional soccer match. I don't think I would have the interest, but I am really enjoying watching the kids play soccer. Which makes me think I would enjoy watching them play Quidditch if they were wizards.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I would enjoy it. Like if my kids, if Luna was ever playing Quidditch, I would probably watch her. And whatever she gets into, I'm gonna get into. and support her. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, even if I find it boring.
It's interesting because like Evelyn, we did the traditional, like when she was little, we tried dance and that was a no-go. We've done cheer. That was a no-go. She's not a fan.
Yeah.
And these things like she would be kind of interested in. And I'm like, oh, let's try ballet. And she's like, okay. Because I always wanted to be a ballerina. So I'm going to make my kid be a ballerina. That's how parenting works. But then you have to realize after they're like, no, this is not my thing. And I'm like, okay, that's not your thing. Like she's my artist. She likes to draw. She likes to paint. We had her in art lessons. And very surprisingly, because she'd never shown any interest in anything athletic. Like she did some basketball, but I'd be like, do you want to do this volleyball camp? No. So when we said there's soccer for your age group, she's like, yeah. I'm like, who are you? She loves it. She likes it probably the most out of all of them.
We like Luna, when she was born, like she would just like the legs were constantly kicking, kick constantly. So I'm like, she's gonna be a great soccer player. And she like whimpered at me and it's like, okay, or a dancer or a swimmer. And then she just kind of like, you know, was cool with it, cooed a little bit. So we got her in the swim lessons and then she didn't kick in the water.
Aww.
So, I mean, we only went to 3 classes and by the 3rd class, and we went like sporadically. We didn't go to every single one because the weather was bad. Yeah. But she was kicking, you know, and splashing around, and at 9 months, like that's all they expect you to do anyway. So she had a fun with it, and we're going to start taking her to the open swims and stuff so that she can keep up on the practice.
It's so cold in there. I can't wait till my in-laws have a heated pool.
Ooh.
Theirs is heated because my mother-in-law doesn't like it cold, and I'm right there with her. I will swim. I love going to swim at their pool. I do not like to swim. I don't like being cold. I'm not a big water person, period, unless it's warm.
You get in the sauna afterwards and warm up.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. Anyway, that is our perspective. So let us know yours in the comments below. Before we go, we would like to thank our editor, Alan, our families, our listeners, and remember to like, share, subscribe, and support. Until next time, stay safe, keep faith. Good night.